Alright, so today I want to discuss an issue that seems to have been born somewhat recently, but if expanded, would be a really troubling thing for the entire YouTube and Twitch and Mixer and Facebook and whatever other platform you can think of where creators partner up with sponsors, but it seems to be a problem for the entire ecosystem if it continues to expand. The basic issue is that sponsors are now being weaponized against creators by other individual creators when they dislike something that they have done or said or a video that they have made. There are actually a couple of examples for this, but before getting to those, I want to tell you a story. This is not the first time I have dealt with this topic, and it's also not one that I have to analyze from the outside in. During early June of 2019, a journalist from CNET named Ian Schur reached out to me. Maybe it was in May, actually, I forget, but the whole chain of events happened in early June, I believe. He asked if I would do an interview with him for an article he was writing on gaming YouTubers. And at the time, being somewhat naive, maybe that's the wrong word here, being more open-minded than I am now with regards to media integrity, at the time I said, sure, why not? When the time came, I got in a call with him and started to discuss things. However, something felt really off. He would repeatedly steer the conversation back to things like SJWs, saying things like, why do you hate diversity? And why do you think people like it when you attack others? Which seemed strange given the context of the discussion I was trying to have, which pertained to consumer advocacy. By the end, I got the distinct feeling that he was frustrated, or at least mildly unhappy with the answers I had given, because I kept trying to discuss genuine motivations for the coverage that I produce, things like accountability, the fight against poor monetization practices, and, in general, the state of the games industry with regards to how major publishers treat their own player base. It felt like he had wanted certain answers, and I just was not saying what he wanted me to say. But it was just a feeling, so I ignored it and went about my day. Not too long later, his article finally came out, and it was a completely transparent hit piece against me and quite a few other creators. Some of those named were The Quartering, Legacy Killer HD, Clean Prince Gaming, and others as well. There were quite a few. The entire concept, with a blatant political spin on top of it all, was that anger sells. We as YouTubers are just outraged farmers, just like the president, yeah, that was in there too, and that if brands knew that their ads were served on our content, they would probably be unhappy. This little rat fucker had spent months going to companies like Audi, Sprint, Honda, Mattress Firm, and many others to try and get them to stop showing ads on my videos. It didn't work, it backfired horribly, and I gained more Patreons, subscribers, and followers on pretty much every platform than any other 3-day period in the channel's entire history. But the point is, a journalist didn't like my content, so he went after my revenue, particularly in the form of advertisers. This is pretty common when it comes to the feud between traditional media and independent creators. Journalistic outlets and those that work for them, places like Vox or Vice, etc., have no problem targeting YouTube advertisers to try and inflict injury upon those that use the platform. And yet another easy example would be Carlos Maza and his attack on Steven Crowder. Carlos Maza, as an individual, had genuine reason to be upset with Crowder's content. I totally understand that angle, but the approach of trying to deplatform him or hurt his revenue, and the end result of YouTube stripping away Crowder's entire monetization potential from his YouTube channel, which luckily for him didn't matter because he finances through a program called Mug Club on his own website, but the approach of going after his entire livelihood instead of simply fighting the battle that pertained to that particular situation had far-reaching ramifications for the rest of the YouTube ecosystem. Not enough? How about another example? A relatively unknown creator by the name Matt Watson discovered a sort of wormhole in the YouTube algorithm that would serve content that displayed minors in compromising situations. In truth, it was really just the algorithm doing what the algorithm is intended to do, but in a specific way and with very specific content that would allow for despicable people to abuse its functionality, which is where the real problem was. Instead of trying to remedy the situation as it was, he decided to go after advertisers. He organized a massive group of enraged viewers to target advertising brands and pressured them to pull from the platform. And it worked, negatively impacting almost everyone on the platform in the short term, luckily not so much the long term. It didn't matter to him what YouTube actually did to solve the problem, he just wanted to hurt the platform. And he succeeded by going after the revenue of everyone. Hopefully you can see the trend, making the leap from an individual issue to deliberately targeting advertisers, sponsors, or other earning opportunities, whether it be against YouTube as a platform or an individual creator, has negative ramifications and does not create a healthy environment. It's cancel culture, it really is, dialed up to a new extreme where a simple disagreement between two people can turn into a campaign to destroy one person's entire career while many others might even be caught in the crossfire. Recently, this has gotten even worse, demonstrated by two separate events. The first is Pokimane versus ItsAGundam. Gundam is a fantastic creator and a comedian who makes quite a bit of content criticizing Twitch and a particular type of broadcaster on the Twitch platform. Pokimane is a wildly popular Twitch streamer who watched and disliked that coverage because some of it pertained to her and her fan base. Her response was to say things like, "Why does that brand sponsor him? They better not try to contact me," referring to Ridge Wallet, which had a link below Gundam's video that she had been watching. And she even went so far as to say that he should not be sponsored because his entire video could be seen as insulting. Now, insulting content, or at least content that can be perceived as insulting, is everywhere, not just YouTube, but the entire internet. It can be true of almost anything on the platform and beyond. And brands sponsor insulting content all the time and will continue to do so because they want to make money. They just care about who can make them the most money, and they don't want to take a moral position on how individual creators on YouTube respect or don't respect each other in their personal discourse. The only person who cared here, the only person, was Pokimane, because she personally felt insulted, and she made a very important shift from targeting Gundam and that particular video to targeting his relationship to a sponsor who helps fund his livelihood. The aftermath of all this did come out in Gundam's favor, by the way. He gained over 30,000 subscribers in just a few days, and there will likely be many more. It's not even slowing down. Most of the commentary community came to his aid, and it ended up being a massive benefit to him because pretty much everyone understands what a totally unacceptable breach of conduct it is to focus on sponsors or advertisers as an escalation attempt to hurt the person you disagree with. By itself, this could be chalked up to an offhanded, angry comment from Pokimane, nothing to really take too seriously. But it just so happens that within a couple of days, there was another situation between two enormous YouTubers on the platform, which echoed these events in a very clear way. That event was the content nuke by H3H3 directed at Keemstar, the host of Drama Alert. This one is an ongoing situation, and I don't know where exactly it will all lead, but the relevant part for my purpose here today is that during the attack video, H3H3 repeatedly mentions G Fuel. He is shaming Keemstar for what is truly despicable behavior and positions, but keeps bringing it back to, and G Fuel sponsors this man, which either directly or indirectly resulted in Keemstar breaking away from the brand. Now, the circumstances surrounding all this are somewhat nebulous. Keemstar says he left because G Fuel didn't deserve that type of targeted harassment over his personal actions. Others say he was basically given the boot because the brand didn't want to work with him anymore, just period, or didn't want to be associated with his actions. But the main point is that H3H3 had a personal feud with Keemstar and made the transition from "I disagree with you" to "I want to take down your earning potential. I want to damage you financially. I am going to target G Fuel as a brand to hurt you." Whoever you support, whether it be H3H3 or Keemstar, even though in my personal opinion they've both done some really questionable stuff in the past, but whoever you support, understanding this transition is important because on social media you have many people celebrating the fact that Keemstar no longer works with G Fuel. I can't speak to the actual level of financial harm that this did to him, but many people are saying he deserved it, so it's fine. The problem is, this was born of context and framing facilitated by someone with a direct emotional and personal desire to hurt Keemstar, and it worked. The defense of this tactic, which mainly seems to center around the attitude of "because he deserved it, it's okay," is smoke and mirrors, because whether or not someone deserves something, as determined by mob mentality in the moment, when picking sides between two creators who dislike one another for a whole host of reasons that we don't even have full context on, is not only 100% subjective, but it can change in a split second, or it can be completely reversed by new evidence. In the aftermath of this opening salvo, because there is more to come, these two creators hate each other and will continue to take shots if I had to make a guess, but in the aftermath of the very first round, many of Keemstar's fans are starting to project the idea that they should now go after H3H3 sponsors in a retaliatory way. This is a death spiral for the commentary community, unless we pull out of it, because individual disagreements being weaponized by large groups of viewers to destroy the financial stability of whoever happens to be on the receiving end at that particular moment in time is one of the most unsafe patterns of behavior for any creator. I myself have had a brief run-in with the malicious tactic of trying to shut down your career because you disagree with their content, as done and executed against me by that particular journalist. I was fortunate enough to come out unscathed, but the mere fact it happened made me think long and hard about the topic. I doubt these events will impact Keemstar hardly at all. He's got a massive channel and no shortage of earning options, and it thankfully seems to have had a reverse effect and boosted Gundam's channel growth through the roof, and it's still continuing to go even right now. But if the tactic of going after sponsors and advertisers becomes normal on a peer-to-peer level, that's very scary for content creators. If that happens, and the H3H3 situation is definitively normalizing it to some degree or another, if it happens with increasing frequency, smaller creators who legitimately rely on some of these brands could get wiped out by the simple act of a peer getting upset at them and the community going after their revenue, which is clearly becoming more normal as time goes on. I don't want that to become normal, not by any stretch, and I believe that is an actual legitimate and critical threat to the ecosystem of YouTube, not just for creators, but the very content that many viewers enjoy, but it seems like that's the way it's going. The takeaway is this: when there is an interpersonal disagreement, respect it for what it is. Don't make that leap to targeting advertisers, sponsors, or other forms of income. It may seem fine because it's someone you hate right now in this very moment, but when it's you or the creators you enjoy who have their career and livelihood threatened actively, that same haphazardly ignorant defense of, well, they just deserve it, might not look so appealing anymore. In the end, this new tactic, one designed for maximum impact against people you don't like, is awful for the platform. And I hope it is very short-lived because all it does is give creators sharper teeth in their worst moments against each other when they are arguing for whatever reason that may be. And that never, ever ends well. If you want to support, off-platform links are down below: merch, Patreon, Twitter, other social media, another YouTuber to support as well, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.